Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a course of Introduction to Humanitarian Mining. Today, we are going to be in a class on humanitarian mining in the first module of the topic Signal Marking and Organization in the Site Work. I am Captain Alexander Angulo. I'm 30 years old. I joined the Army in 2009. My experience is 10 years in the force. My branch is engineer and my specialty is support engineer in the mining. I have the humanitarian mining leader course, Lancero course, and paratrooper course. I have worked as a humanitarian mining leader in the humanitarian mining battalion number 2 and battalion number 3 in Planadas, Tolima, and Pennsylvania Caldas. I'm currently in service as a training officer from the International Demining Center. Well, to finish, my expectation for the course is that you, as a student, attain the general knowledge of the methods and techniques that the Colombian Army applied in the subject of humanitarian mining when the units carry out the clearance in my country. Well, students, in this part, I will explain the evaluation methods. Here you can see the percentage with which we will get your final grade of the subject. Are divided into a quiz that has a value of the 20%. In this quiz, where each one will identify the step, function, roles, objectives according to the operational procedure seen in the first module and second module. The second quiz, where each one will identify the step, marking organization according to the operational procedure, this will have a value of the 13%. And finally, a final test where they evaluate all the topics seen in the class. This will have a value 15% for a total of 100% of the all subject. This test will be carried out by the means of the Blackboard platform. Well, students, the name of the subject is Signaling, Marking, and Organization in the Site Work. For today, you have an agenda. The task is task number 1, generalities. These tasks have a small topics, and first topic is definition. The second topic is abbreviation acronym. The third topic is objectives, and fourth topic is roles and responsibilities. This is the agenda for today. Well, students, let's begin with the class. To get in the contest, Colombia has gone through an important process of transformation. We have gone from being a recipient of cooperation to become an important contributor in the international peace and security efforts. However, we must say that we haven't accomplished this by ourselves. We haven't achieved this by researching a well-balanced mixture between developing our own capabilities based on our own experience and expertise, but also through the strengthening of our forces with the support of international cooperation. International cooperation has been key in our transformation. Thanks to this balance, we have become a reference of success. And we are now a security and stability provider in the region. A proof of this is that today we are able to say that Colombia is a NATO global partner. In this slide, you can see the demining structure in Colombia. You can know the first thing we should know is that the Colombian army is the only one in the world that has a humanitarian demining brigade, because the other countries that carry out demining do with a civilian companies. Remember, this brigade, which is the national capacity to carry out clearance activities in contaminated areas. The structure of demining in Colombia is watched by the Contaminate Colombia, which is in charge of directing. The Contaminate Colombia has 5 branches, which are humanitarian demining, mine risk education, victim care, stockpile destruction, and public defense. In this topic, you learn only about humanitarian demining. The humanitarian demining functions that we are going to focus on is divided into 2 organizations. The National Capacity for Humanitarian Demining of the Colombian Military Force, which is organized by the Humanitarian Demining Engineer Brigade, that is part of the Army, National Army, and the Marine Explosive and Demining Group, that is part of the National Navy. On the other side, and as can be seen in the table, there are the civilian humanitarian demining organizations, which are civilian companies which are all of this effort to decontaminate Colombia, must be watched over and monitored by an external entity in the country, which in this case, the entity is the Organization of the American States, OAS, which is responsible for the guarantee and carried out external quality control of the zones already clearance, and thus give it a security clearance to the affected population. And what is these civilian companies? The most important civilian companies in the world is Halo Trust, Humanitarian and Inclusion, Before Handicapped International, and APM. And this led us to this question. I would like to know, what is the main entity conduct the mine clearance process in your countries? In this slide, you can see the international standard that the brigade used to create our national standard. And what is this international standard? The first is IMAS A14, that your name is marking mine and ERW explosives remains of war hazardous. And the second is IMAS 410, that your name is glossary of mine action term definition and abbreviation. These are the key documents on which Colombia has based its demining efforts. On the other side, Colombians create rules for organization about to the international standards. And what is this rules for organization? The procedure is the name, signal, and marking procedure, OP number 2. This procedure is employed and used by the demining units to perform their demining activities in hazardous areas, and thus be able to perform the marking in the best way to avoid a possible accident of a civilian or the mining belong to the operation. Also, in this procedure is that we will be based on two GIF developed to the class. And hazardous marking provides a clear and confusing warrant of the dangerous from explosive ordnance and is carried out in order to reduce the unintentional entry of the local population and personnel involved in the humanitarian demining process into the conformist hazardous or hazardous area. The marking and hazardous marking described in this operational procedure will follow the guidelines set out in the national standard for the marking organization in the site work. Besides, the marking is very important because the demining units must inform the population what is happening in the area so that people can be informed of the everything that will happen on their land. And our miner must also know how the marking systems are being used in the work area so that they can do their work in the best way to avoid accident. Follow with the glossary of term definition or abbreviation used in operational procedure OP is provided in a general basic national glossary of term of the director for the comprehension action against anti-personnel mine, the contaminated Colombia, and the international glossary of term definition and abbreviation of the activity related to mines. In the national standard from completion activation against anti-personnel mines developed to be applied in Colombia. The term more common is shall and may are used to indicate the degree of compliance requirement. This use consists with the language used in the ASO standard and norms. In this sense, for this operation procedure, the term mentioned above will have the same application is the term shall, the term should, and the term might. The term shall is used to indicate requirements, methods, or specification that must be applied in order to complete with the standard. For example, the mining units must use hazardous tape to delimit the hazardous area. This is the example because the miner using all the time the hazardous tape for delimitate the hazardous area. The next term is sure. The term sure is used to indicate the requirements, models, and specifications that make up the best practice. For example, you should maintain the marking every 3 days according to the weather condition, but you can't do it every day. This is the example for the term should. The deminer make a maintained every 3 days and this is a recommendation. And the last term is determined. It could be used as a tip that you can apply from the fulfillment of the task. For example, you can use other means or dialogue if you already talking to the population about it. You can use different signals if you talk to the population about it. Continue with definition. In this slide, you can see abbreviation and acronyms. The first acronym is HH, hazardous area. And what is hazardous area? Hazardous area is a small piece of the ground that you suspect or is possible that this area have a explosive device. CHA, confirmed hazardous area, is a small piece of the ground that you see or this area have a explosive device. FD, fixed dimension, is a point in the ground. NTS, not technical survey. This is a task belong to manual demining technique. TS, technical survey. This is the same to the last abbreviation. This is a task belong to manual demining technique. Identifier. You use identifier when you work in hazardous area or confirmed hazardous area. All areas has an identifier. IMAS, information management system for mine action. APN, anti-personnel mine. This is explosive device. SO, abandoned explosive ordnance. This is other explosive device. USO, an explosive ordnance. PP, pivot point. This is a point in the ground. Starting point, other point. OP, operational procedure. RP, reference point. Objectives. The objective of this subject is to define the context and requirements of the signal marking and organization of the work site as part of the development of the different humanitarian demining tasks. You can use this signal or this marking when you make technical survey or non-technical survey. In each one of the assignment areas, in accordance with the standard of humanitarian demining, signal, marking, and organization of the site work. The achievement, this subject establish the requirements that the demining unit must follow for the marking and signal of the hazardous areas or confirmed hazardous areas. In the same way, the organization of the site during the preparation of the work area when the non-technical survey, and clearance carry out operation. The signaling and marking of the work site will have the purpose The first, we must control that no personnel outside the operation has access to the hazardous areas, thus avoid an accident or death of someone. This should be associated with the community. The purpose is control and prevent the population access to the HA or CH8. Define the HA or CH8 that is intervened. When marking a hazardous area, it will be defined where the technical or not technical survey will be carried out. Delineate the extent and progress of the mining operation carried out in SA, CSA. In the same way, the marking will delimit the area where the mining work is already being done and is clearing of contamination. Delineate the area that has been cleared. Determining the line this area when the mining already make you work in this work path. The line the dangerous or conformous area that has been identified. Keep the marking of the identifier hazardous area or conformous hazardous area during the state in the designing area. It's possible to know with the hazardous area or the area that is not hazardous. Signed, there are some physical means that the marking the area. And the last one is deliver the areas that will not be interpreted in the short term, posted and market to the territory and community authorities and the contaminated Colombia and the end of the intervention of the area. Functional roles and responsibilities. The minimum unit of development is the minimum organization of a manual demining technique team for a fulfillment of the task is the following. One manual demining technique leader that the equivalent is lieutenant or second lieutenant, or in the case or a non-commissioned officer of the rank of sergeant to a corporal. And for the miner, the following are a professional private who must have a basic course in the mining. If you use this miner, this private must have a basic course in the mining. One person training in basic first aid, that the equipment, one private or soldier training in basic first aid. And it's very important to add, then they must be certified by the monetary body, which is the organization of the American state, OSA. This organization, this entity, guarantees the quality control in the country. Operation officer, that the equipment is a major. I implement an internal quality management system that guarantees the proper implementation of signal marking organization of the cyborg and maintains of the same and assignment areas. This is the first function, and the The second function is instructor platoon commander to present the requirements demand by the external monitoring body. Besides, the unit's operation officer is in the charge of coordinate operation with the mining units that will carry out the fire work and coordinate the air support assigning to the units. This is the function for the operation officer. Next slide, platoon commander. The platoon commander is equivalent first lieutenant, and the function is instructor, the leader responsible for the task to present the requirements demanded by the external monitoring body. The second is advise, the leader responsible for the task from the proper decision marking for the signal marking and organization of the site work. The second person is a leader responsible for the task. This leader planned the logistic needs requirement for the implementation of the marking, signal, and organization of the site work according to the assigned task. If the unit leader fails in one of his functions, this could result in an accident or death for civilian or remaining. This marking system should be socially with the civilian population so that they know the marking and know where to work. The other function or responsibility is perform the registration of marking according to the format established by the address, the contaminant Colombia. Response for the correct implementation of signaling, marking, and organization of the workplace. Employs the personnel under his commander to carry out the signal, marking, and organization of the workplace. And finished, inform in the progress of community link to the local population of the signal marking during and after the intervention of the assignment areas. Remember, if the leader don't make these functions, this could result in an accident or death for the civilian or the miner. The other activities take to action preventive and corrective to non-conformity made by the external monitoring body and or the responsible for the internal quality control. The next one is the report applied by the external monitoring component and by the responsible for the internal quality management. And the function of the minors of the non-technical survey auxiliaries is carry out the installation of the marking and signaling, perform on-site installation for the areas that make up of the worksite organization, maintains the dialogue system, and informally respond for the tasks of the any developments with the marking and organization system of the workplace. Finally, for me, it's very important that this information has been clear and that in the future you can apply it in your different countries. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question or comments, you can write me to my email that you will see at the bottom of the screen. I will be waiting for any request from you, and I will see you in the next forum. Thank you very much and see you later.